This is Tales and Whispers, where every story is felt, not just heard.
You know, sometimes it's the quietest moments that end up being the loudest, right? Today, we're going to look at a single, quiet moment that somehow sent a ripple across the entire world. It's a story about a kind of kindness that doesn't need big words or huge gestures. It says everything it needs to in total silence. Okay, to really feel this one, I want you to come with me for a second. Just picture it. You're on the subway, maybe you're on your way to work or heading home. And it's that familiar feeling, the crush of a totally normal day. The train is packed, you're surrounded by strangers, and every single person is just lost in their own world, right? Their own music, their own thoughts. At every stop, it's that same organized chaos. Some people are pushing their way off, others are squeezing their way on. It's just the rhythm of the city. And you hear those sounds, that familiar chime, the hiss of the doors closing shut, and then that little jolt as the train lurches forward, making you grab a pole so you don't lose your balance. All right, you've got the scene in your head. Now let's zoom in on one specific train. We're on line 2 of the subway in Chengdu, China. And somewhere in this anonymous crowd, we find a mother and her young son. You see this mother, and she is just gone. Completely asleep, slumped over in her seat. You can see it written all over her face, that deep, bone-weary exhaustion from a long day. Her head is kind of resting against this cold, hard metal railing. Sleep didn't ask her permission, it just took her. Now, standing right beside her is her young son. And what's so striking, what really grabs you, is everything he isn't doing. He's not staring at a phone, he's not fidgeting, or looking around bored out of his mind. No, he's just standing there, perfectly still, like a little guardian, holding their bags and watching over his mom. And get this wasn't some random act. It turns out, just a few minutes earlier, he'd been sitting down, but when a woman with a baby got on, he popped right up and gave her his seat. Instantly. No hesitation at all. This was clearly just who he was. And then comes the moment that made everybody notice. As the train sways back and forth, the boy sees his mother's head start to slip on that metal pole. He watches her for a second, and then he does something so incredibly simple, but oh my gosh, so powerful. So he sees her head start to slide. He pauses for just a beat. You can almost see the thought process. And then he carefully reaches out and slips his own little hand right between her head and that hard pole. His hand, it became her pillow. And you know exactly why he did it. He wanted to shield her from the discomfort, from being jolted awake by a bump. He was trying to protect her rest, to make absolutely sure she could keep sleeping. This is where the story gets bigger than just the two of them, because this quiet little act of love, it didn't go unnoticed. As the train kept moving, other passengers started to see what was happening. One by one, heads started to turn. Someone who was there on the train described it perfectly. They said some passengers just kind of looked away into the distance as if remembering their own mother. Wow, that small scene just hit them on a whole other level. I mean, that one silent gesture sparked so many different feelings. Some people did a double take, like they couldn't believe the simple kindness they were seeing. Others, as we heard, were thrown back into memories of their own families. And for some, it actually made them feel a little ashamed, realizing how caught up they were in their own tiny problems while this incredible moment of care was happening right in front of them. And here's the thing, he didn't just do it for a second. He held his hand there, steady as a rock, taking the weight of his mom's head as the train went from stop to stop. You can just imagine his fingers starting to ache, his arm getting tired. He could have stopped any time, and nobody would have blamed him, but he didn't. He just held his post. So this whole thing actually happened back in 2017. Someone on the train snapped a photo and shared it online. And almost overnight, it just exploded. It went viral, not because it was some huge dramatic event, but because it was so real. And even now, years later, the story keeps popping up, reminding us of something really fundamental. But that really makes you wonder, right? Why? In a world that is just flooded with content, why did this one simple picture of a boy's hand touch millions of people so deeply? What was the lesson hidden in that gesture? And this right here gets to the absolute heart of it. True kindness, especially the kind you show your family, what some cultures call bir, or dutiful kindness, it isn't about big speeches or grand promises. It's about something much quieter. It's about having an awake and attentive heart. It's about noticing. So if there's one big lesson to pull from this whole story, it's actually pretty simple. Real change, being a better person, it starts at home. It starts with the people who are closest to you, your mother and your father. And ultimately, that's why this story sticks with us, because it's proof that a person's character isn't really defined by the big, heroic moments. It's revealed in the tiny, almost invisible details of how we treat the people we say we love. Which kind of leaves all of us with a question to think about. It's one thing to say we love and respect our parents, but how does that respect actually show up? What are the small, silent gestures we make? What's our version of the hand that becomes a pillow?